So last time we saw that everything before the first gym is pretty much a tutorial. We meet the main characters for the first time, we learn about type matchups, and we usually get a catching tutorial. Some of the games just sort of skim over everything pretty quickly, and some of them are very slow, but they all lay the groundwork for everything to come once the real game starts. So what does that look like? What do the different games give us once we're past that first gym? Do we get to explore new areas? Do we get more detail on the story of the games? The ground running, or do they drag their feet? And finally, how long does it take to get to the second gym in every Pokemon game? Let's find out. Now, once again, this is not a speed run, but we're still going to try to get everything done as fast as we can. So we're going to follow a lot of the same rules as last time to try and keep everything even between the different games. So I can still skip any non-mandatory trainer battles, but I still have to battle every wild Pokemon I find. And to avoid having to do maths, this time we're going to use an actual timer that will start as soon as we walk out of the first gym and end the second we enter the second gym. Also, I'm gonna name every Pokemon after someone in the comments, so hopefully you get something you like. Make sense? Cool. Let's kick this off with...
Pokemon for Game Boy is here. With both packs, you can catch them all. Games and systems sold separately.
Now we want to pick a starter that's going to be able to not only solo the first gym, but also be useful for the rest of the game. So Charmander is out. The lizard is going to be very unhelpful against Brock's rocks. Now you can't really go wrong with either Squirtle or Bulbasaur. The Cabbage looks pretty good in the early game with strong matchups against the first two gyms, but it struggles against Team Rocket and it doesn't do very well in the end game. Squirtle, however, has decent type matchups to 6 out of 8 gyms, isn't scared of the Rockets or the Elite Four, so we're gonna go with Squirtle, and we name it Franco. We take on the Rock-type gym leader Brock with his level 12 Geodude and level 14 Onix to earn our Boulder Badge and the TM4 Bide, which is a pretty useless move, at least for this run.
It's fighting its time.
Also, not a Rock-type move, but we head out the front door of the gym and the time starts now. We make our way out east towards Mount Moon, battle a few trainers on the way, and Franco evolves into a Wartortle. We continue on through Mount Moon and I get crazy lucky with like no encounters. I swear I am not using a repel here. Seriously, look at this. This never happens. Speedrunners are going to be studying this video years from now to try and figure out how the hell I did this. Anyway, eventually we run into a wild Clefairy, which is a very fitting encounter for Mount Moon, because, you know, moonstones and aliens or something. But we keep moving on until we get our first introduction to a member of a mysterious group who call themselves Team Rocket, who seem to be more interested in making money than catching good Pokemon, because all they've got are rats and bats. We come across a super nerd who has found 2 fossils, so we take on his level 12 Grimer, Voltorb, and Koffing, and then after we beat him, he offers us one of the fossils, and I'm gonna go with Lord Helix. Less for the memes and more just because it's right in front of me, but we get out of Mount Moon, go straight through Cerulean City, and enter the doors of the gym with a time of 12 minutes and 47 seconds. Let's see what's changed in...
Pokemon Yellow, the special Pikachu edition for Game Boy Color, where it's you and Pikachu.
Now this time we've only got one option for our starter, and unfortunately it's Pikachu, but we're gonna call it Zachary. Now I love you, Zach, but there's no way you're gonna be able to handle Brock's rocks alone, so instead, we catch a male Nidoran, name it Jonathan, and then battle some bugs until Jonathan learns the fighting type attack Double Kick at level 12, which we then use to take on Brock, whose Geodude has gone down from level 12 to level 10, and Onix, who's dropped from level 14 to level 12. We head through Mount Moon where Jonathan evolves into a Nidorino. Then along the way we grab a Moonstone and immediately evolve Jonathan into a Nidoking. But my luck seems to have run out because we are absolutely riddled with cave herpes. Although we do find another Clefairy. Now there seems to be no sign of Team Rocket, so we just go straight through to the Super Nerd, grab ourselves a fossil, and head out of the cave. But before we can leave, we get our first introduction to two new members of Team Rocket, Jesse and James. The game doesn't specifically call them Jesse and James here, but it's totally Jesse and James, who are obviously taken from the anime with their team of Ekans, Koffing, and of course, Meowth. But we get out of the cave, go straight through Cerulean and into the gym with a time of 15 minutes and 42 seconds. So the Gen 1 games are pretty basic, but I feel like they do a decent job here of making the games feel relatively non-linear, while still guiding the player in the right direction. What I mean by that is, I know exactly where I'm going because I've done it 1,000 times, but on your first ever playthrough, there's plenty of places to get lost and have a bit of an explore in Mount Moon. There's a heap of new Pokemon to catch with all the varieties of cave herpes, and there's plenty of new trainers to battle. Plus we get all the rocket stuff, but we also get our introduction to the fossil mechanic, which isn't fully explained at this point, but there's enough here to make you want to know more, to figure out what the hell this whole fossil thing is all about. So that's good. We get a little bit of in-game lore with the Clefairy and Mount Moon, but it isn't fully explored like it is in the anime. The focus is definitely on exploration and discovery. And I think they do a pretty good job. At least good for the first time they ever tried it. Let's see what they do with
Pokemon Gold and Silver, rated E for everyone.
So there's actually only 2 starters available in these games, which means that... Okay, so here's the thing. I'm sorry guys, but Chikorita is objectively terrible for an actual playthrough. I love the little guy, and Meganium is a beast in the right context. But Chikorita straight up loses against the first gym, does nothing in the second gym, and cannot touch anything in the fourth gym. And it can't really do much in the last 4 either, with the exception of one good matchup against Chuck's Poliwrath. It struggles against the Rocket's Poison and Flying types, it does nothing in the Elite Four, and it doesn't really get a decent late game Grass type attack, because Solar Beam is pretty much useless unless you want to waste a turn setting up Sunny Day, so...
Stop trying to make
Chikorita
happen. It's not going to happen.
Look, we're going with Totodile, because there's no Grass or Electric gyms in the whole of Johto, so it doesn't really have any bad type matchups. It gets Ice Punch for some good coverage, plus it gets Rage, which is a ridiculously good early game attack. Okay? We good? Cool. We grab our Totodile and name it Wally, then take on the Flying type gym leader Faulkner with his level 7 Pidgey and level 9 Pidgeotto to fly away on our Zephyr badge and grab the TM for Mud Slap, which is not a flying type attack. It's a ground type attack. But it's actually a pretty decent early game move, so we teach it to Wally and head out of the gym where we immediately receive a phone call from Professor Elm to let us know that his assistant is at the Pokemon Center. We head inside and grab the mystery egg before making our way down south, where we take on youngster Albert, who must be an ex-member of Team Rocket or something with his combination of rat and bat, before dodging a few trainers and declining an offer for some delicious but very pricey Slowpoke tail. We head into the Union Cave where we battle some rocks and a Vulpix before heading towards Azalea Town, where a kind stranger is very thoughtfully guarding the entrance to the Slowpoke well, for safety. We meet another kind stranger who is very graciously guarding the entrance to the gym, also for safety. So we have a quick chat with a man named Kurt who explains that these aren't actually local security guards, but straggling members of Team Rocket who were thought to have disbanded years ago, but have recently been making a bit of a comeback. So Kurt runs off to go sort them out. We follow him to the Slowpoke well, where Kurt fakes an injury to avoid having to do anything helpful before we battle a few grunts and take down the evil Team Rocket to save the Slowpoke from having their delicious tails removed. Kurt makes a miraculous recovery after everything's already sorted out, so we follow him back to his house where we immediately leave and head straight to the gym and in the doors with a time of 17 minutes and 19 seconds. Let's see if anything's changed in...
Pokemon Crystal, gotta catch 'em all.
We grab our Totodile and name it Crystal before taking on Faulkner with the exact same Pidgey and Pidgeotto from Gold and Silver. We head out of the gym, grab the egg, and head towards the Union Cave, but this time they've rejigged the trainer layout a little bit so we can actually get through the entire cave without a single trainer battle. We still have to take on a few wild rats, but we get out of the cave and head straight to Azalea Town, where we save the Slowpoke well from Team Rocket, no thanks to Kurt, and head into the gym with a time of 12 minutes and 33 seconds. Now, these games take what worked well in Gen 1 and expand on it a little bit. We get a bit more story stuff with the Slowpoke Well and the whole Team Rocket thing, which helps to tie everything back to the first games, but also brings in some more specific crimes. Rather than the game just telling us that Team Rocket is evil, we actually see why, with them literally mutilating the Slowpoke for money. So that's good. But the main focus here is definitely in the exploration and discovery, because there's a lot of optional areas that we didn't even touch. You could spend hours exploring the Union Cave and the ruins of Elf, doing all the puzzles and catching a bunch of unknown. Or you could backtrack and check out the Dark Cave or the Bellsprout Tower, or get really into crafting with Kurt and all his fancy new bowls. For a very linear game on an 8-bit Game Boy Color, they do a pretty good job of making the world feel pretty big. I like it. Let's check out
Pokemon Ruby and Pokemon Sapphire, only for Game Boy Advance.
Once again, we have a Rock-type gym first up, which means that the Fire-type Torchic is out. So it's between the Grass-type Trico and the Water-type Mudkip. Now, Trico actually looks pretty good here, and is a solid choice with decent type matchups against 6 out of the 8 gyms, but it doesn't really have much to do against Team Magma, and the Grass-type in general has a lot of weaknesses. Mudkip, however, gets a dual water and ground typing when it evolves, which means that it's only got one weakness to grass. It is a 4 times weakness, but there are no grass type gyms and no grass types for either Team Magma or Team Aqua. Plus it can learn Ice Beam to cover the grass weakness anyway, so Mudkip is going to have a pretty easy run this game. We grab our Mudkip and name it Awkward before we take on the Rock-type gym leader Roxanne with her level 14 Geodude and level 15 Nosepass to earn our Stone Badge and the TM4 Rock Tomb, which is actually a Rock-type attack for once, so that's good. We head out of the gym and immediately, crime has occurred, so we chase down the thief and are stopped by that same Devon researcher that we met in the forest that one time. He tells us that a member of Team Magma has stolen the Devon goods and asks us to go get him back. Now we can dodge literally every trainer on this route, so we catch up to him pretty quick. We meet a man outside the Rusturf tunnel who says that the thief has gone inside and has also kidnapped his bird. So we head inside and have a quick battle against the Team Magma Grunt, who returns the Devon goods and Pico. Pico's the bird. We learn that Pico's owner is Mr. Briny, who thanks us for our help before we head back towards Rustboro, where we accidentally run into my arch nemesis, youngster Joey. But after the battle, Awkward evolves into a beautiful Marsh Tomp. We meet back up with the Devon researcher to return the Devon goods, but he's like, yeah, nah, I'm scared, can you go drop these off, because I don't want to do it. So he takes us to meet the president of the Devon Corporation, who's like, nah, yeah, I heard you're heading south, can you drop this letter off, because I don't want to do it. So we backtrack through the Petalburg Woods and down to see Mr. Briny, who offers us a ride on his boat and a trip down to Juford Town, where we don't deliver the letter, because we can head straight into the gym with a time of 6 minutes and 29 seconds. That's gonna be hard to beat. Let's try
Pokemon Emerald, only for Game Boy Advance.
We grab ourselves a Mudkip and name it Sandy before we take on Roxanne, who has traded her level 14 Geodude for 2 level 12 Geodudes, but she still has a level 15 Nosepass. All of the main events are pretty much the same here, but they've rejigged the trainer layout a little bit again, so this is gonna require all of my skill. Son of a bitch. We catch up to the thief, but this time it's a Team Aqua Grunt. We grab the Devon goods and save Pico, then meet the president before heading down south. But this time, we've got some social activity. We meet a scientist and have a quick chat before he gives us a new phone and forces us to call the president for a quick chat. We head down south and run into Brendan, who wants a quick chat, but we decline his offer for a battle before we jump on the boat where Dad calls us for a quick chat. We arrive in Juford Town and head straight to the gym with a time of 9 minutes and 18 seconds. So time-wise, these have been the shortest games so far, but we've actually got a lot going on in that time with some pretty efficient storytelling. We get a bit more Team Magma / Aqua shenanigans, but there's a really cool little cause and effect thing going on here where, because we helped the Devon researcher in the Petalburg Woods, he asks us for our help again. Then because of that, he now trusts us to deliver the Devon goods for him. Then because of that, the president asks us to take the letter to Stephen. Then because of that, we need Mr. Briney to take us there on his boat, which he only does because we saved his Pico, which we only did because the Devon researcher asked us for our help in the first place, which he only did because we helped him out in the Petalburg woods. I mean, it's not Shakespeare, but it's pretty good writing for a kid's game. Now, before we get too deep into the story-driven games, let's go back in time and check out a remake with...
Pokemon Fire Red and Pokemon Leaf Green are here, and now you can collect, train, and battle in a whole new way, only for Game Boy Advance, rated E for everyone.
Yes, we're going with Squirtle again, and we name it Taylor. We take on Brock, who's gone back to his red and blue team with his level 12 Geodude and level 14 Onix, but this time, instead of a useless TM for Bide, we get the TM for Rock Tomb, just like in Ruby and Sapphire that one time. We head out west towards Mount Moon, and for the only time in the entire franchise, we get the running shoes after the first gym, but we are zippy zooming now. We battle a bunch of trainers, Taylor evolves into a Wartortle, and we make our way through Mount Moon, where the running shoes may actually be less helpful than I'd hoped, because I seem to get a lot more encounters. Now, I tried looking it up to see if running increases your encounter rate, because I kind of feel like it does, but there is surprisingly little information about it, and everyone seems to disagree, but I want to know, so let's do some quick science. I pick a nice straight stretch of grass and start doing laps. 100 laps walking and 100 laps running. The idea here is that if I get more encounters while I'm running while covering the exact same distance, that means running does increase the encounter rate. So after 100 laps of each, walking got 121 encounters and running got 119, which doesn't really prove anything, so let's try again. This time I pick a shorter stretch of grass because I'm kind of sick of running away from everything at this point, and I do my 100 laps of each. And they both come in at exactly 76 encounters, which I feel like kind of proves that running doesn't increase the encounter rate, but let's try one more time. This time I'm going to do laps in Mount Moon. I do my 100 of each, and this time walking gets 98 encounters, and running gets exactly 100, which is a difference of 2. So 3 for 3, I'm calling this myth busted. Running does not increase your encounter rate, which means I just have terrible luck. We get our obligatory Clefairy encounter, then run into the Team Rocket Grunt, who's still got a rat and a bat. Next, we take on that one super nerd whose name is apparently Miguel, then grab a fossil and head straight out to... Son of a bitch. Grab a fossil and head to... these freaking bats, man! We go straight through Cerulean and into the gym with a time of 14 minutes and 20 seconds. Next up is...
Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl. Gotta catch them all.
Now this is going to be a controversial pick, because Piplup and Turtwig both have good matchups against the first gym, and also pretty decent matchups against the rest of the gyms in the game, with a particularly good showing from the Grass and Ground type Torterra, who only really struggles with the 7th gym's Ice types. Unfortunately, Torterra and Empoleon are both built to be bulky attackers that can soak up a few hits. But I don't want to be soaking up any hits. I want to hit hard and hit fast, which is exactly what Infernape does. Now, the monkey's going to struggle a little bit against the 4th gym's water types, but also, the pure fire type Chimchar is not going to be having a good time in the first gym, because we've got another rock type gym to deal with. Luckily, Monferno gets a secondary fighting type, can learn Rock Smash, and evolves at a very achievable level 14. So this may look like the wrong choice on paper, but I'm sticking with it and we're going with the monkey. We grab our Chimchar and name it Joel, then instead of going around the trainers in the gym, we actually battle them to get enough experience for Joel to evolve into a Monferno. We take on the Rock-type gym leader, whose name I'm forgetting for some reason. I don't know, I'm just gonna call him Roxanne, but we take out his level 12 Geodude, level 12 Onix, and level 14 Cranidos to earn our Coal Badge and the TM4 Stealth Rock. We head out of the gym and make our way back towards Jubilife, but we get smacked up the ass with some Barry, who forgets how to count to 10 and leaves. But luckily we don't have to see him again anytime soon, so that's good. We continue on until we find Professor Rowan, who wants us to fight these two random blokes for like no reason. But then they threaten Dawn, and no one threatens Dawn. So we take down the bug and the bat, and then after they leave, Rowan explains that they were members of Team Galactic, a group that is trying to harness the energy of evolution, whatever that means. So we ignore him and head north to the Ravaged Path, where we use Rock Smash to smash some rocks and keep moving on. We dodge a few trainers before arriving at Floroma Town, where we go straight out east to find a little girl who's lost her daddy. We make our way over to the Valley Windworks, where a member of Team Galactic is guarding the door. We have a quick battle and he turns out to be a pretty sore loser, so he locks himself inside. We head back through Floroma Town to the Floroma Meadow, where two more members of Team Galactic are trying to steal some honey. So we battle them both, and then after the battle we grab the key and some honey. We double back to the Valley Windworks, open the door, and head inside, where we have a surprisingly tough battle against one of the three Team Galactic commanders, with Commander Mars, whose Perugly is actually really strong for this early in the game. Luckily, she's not a sore loser and agrees to leave. We learn that Team Galactic is collecting energy to create a new universe, whatever that means, but we reunite the family and the little girl mentions a mysterious balloon Pokemon before we leave and make our way up north, where we dodge a few more trainers and head into the Eterna Forest, where we are introduced to Cheryl, who asks us to escort her through the forest out of fear of Team Galactic. We run into a couple of trainers who want a double battle, and Cheryl sends out her Chansey, who is an absolute liability and makes the battle last twice as long as it should. So the next double battle we come across, we just take them on one at a time. But unfortunately, that doesn't help us much with the wild encounters, where Chansey just slows everything down. But we get to the other end of the forest, where Cheryl thanks us for her help before we head east towards Eterna City, where we go straight to the gym and in the doors with the time of 24 minutes and 6 seconds. Let's see what's changed in
Pokemon Platinum, rated E for everyone.
We grab ourselves a Chimchar, and I kinda panicked here because Leon's jacket didn't quite fit, so I ended up naming it Leon's Jacked. Which, I mean, Leon is kinda jacked, so I guess it still kinda works, but we take on Roxanne, whose team is exactly the same as it was in Diamond and Pearl. And everything else is pretty much the same here, except this time, the two grunts threaten Lucas. And nobody threatens Lucas. Even Rowan goes on a bit of a rant here, a lot more than he did for Dawn. Obviously, Lucas is the favourite, but we head up to Floroma Town, where we still do the whole Valley Windworks thing, Perugly's still kinda scary, and Chansey still sucks, but the biggest difference here is with Team Galactic. Like when Commander Mars corrects herself and says that she is one of 4 commanders now, with Commander Charon being introduced in the Valley Windworks. We also see a bit of a buff to the Galactic Grunts teams, who have replaced their bugs and bats with cats and skunks, and gained a few levels, which means that Leon's Jacked is getting a few extra levels himself. Also, Looker's around, but he's not doing much yet. But just like last time, everything runs a little bit quicker in Platinum, so we go to Eterna City and go straight to the gym, where we have a quick chat with Gardenia before we head through the doors with the time of 23 minutes flat. Now, these games actually have a pretty good balance between linear and non-linear gameplay at this point. There's a solid story here with the introduction of Team Galactic, who appear to be pretty well organized with multiple levels of command, and a goal that admittedly doesn't make much sense at this point in the story, but is interesting enough to want to know more, to try to figure out what the hell all this talk of energy and creation is all about. So that's all great, but we also keep that spirit of exploration and discovery from the first couple of games, with the option to head deeper down into the Orberg Gate, or the Ravaged Path, or to go explore the Eterna Forest, or to just dick around with the new Honey Tree mechanic. We also get a timed event for Driftblim, which is pretty cool, but unfortunately, These games are very reliant on HMs, and all of the most interesting places to explore are all locked behind HMs. Like, you can't get into the old chateau without the HM for Cut, and you can't get into the Fugo Ironworks without the HM for Surf, so that's all a little bit disappointing. But it does encourage the player to come back to all the different areas later in the game to actually do everything, if that's something you're into. I don't really like it, but I'm sure some people love it. So other than that, it's a solid run between gyms. Now let's take a quick trip back in time to check out
Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver version games with the Pokewalker, only for Nintendo DS and Nintendo DSi.
We grab our Totodile and name it Jamie, then head into the gym to take on Faulkner, whose Pidgey has gone from level 7 to level 9, and Pidgeotto, who's gone from level 9 all the way up to level 13. But we get our Zephyr badge and the TM for Roost, which is not very useful for Jamie. But we head out of the gym and get a call from Elm to grab the egg from the mart this time instead of the Pokemon Center. As soon as we leave, we meet the kimono girl Zuki, who will not be relevant for a very long time, but we head down south and very little has changed, but we do get the rejigged trainer layout from Crystal, which means we can avoid every trainer in the Union Cave. Also, and this is a very small thing, but the guy who usually stops us to try to force us to buy an overpriced but delicious Slowpoke tail, he doesn't even offer. That's just rude. We also get a bit more dialogue and some minor assault from Team Rocket before we save the Slowpoke well, where because of the slightly higher levels in this game, Jamie evolves into a beautiful Croconaw. We go back to Kurtz where he gives us a fast ball and we head through the doors of the gym at 12 minutes and 26 seconds, which is pretty much bang on with Crystal, which seems to be a pretty big influence on these games as opposed to just straight up remakes of Gold and Silver. So that's pretty cool. Let's see what's going on in
Pokemon Black version and Pokemon White version, only for Nintendo DS systems, rated E for everyone.
We might have another controversial pick here, because the first gym doesn't really matter, because they give you the monkey, which just straight up wins, so we're not all that concerned with the early game. Now, all three starters are pretty solid here, but Snivy specifically struggles, just because of the grass type being weak to 3 out of the remaining 7 gyms, and also not doing great against Team Plasma. Oshawott has a fairly neutral run, being strong in the 5th gym, but weak to the 4th gym, and not really caring either way about Team Plasma. Tepig, however, brings back the fire fighting type when it evolves, for the 3rd time in a row, which is getting a little repetitive at this point, but it means it's strong against 3 of the remaining 7 gyms and has no problem dealing with all the dark and normal types in these games, because there's a lot of them. Plus, even though it's a little on the slow side, it gets the attack Flame Charge, which is a ridiculously good early game attack that increases its speed with every attack. So, we're going with the pig. We grab our Tepig and name it Froyo before we head into the gym to take on one of the 3 gym leaders. And because we picked the fire type, we are up against Cress with his level 12 Lillipup and level 14 Panpour, who has no chance against our Pansage, which we named Cut for reasons which will soon become clear. But we take the win and earn our Trio badge and the TM for Workup, which is actually pretty handy in the early game. We head out the front door of the gym and meet Fennel, who takes us back to her place, where we go upstairs. And she gives us the TM for Cut, which is very nice, but not usually what I'm hoping for when a girl takes me home, but it's fine. She asks us to go get some Dream Mist from the Mooner in the Dream Yard, so we teach Cut to cut and use Cut to cut the tree. Bianca shows up just to kinda hang out, which is nice, but we hear some strange noises coming from the Dream Yard. We rush in to find a Mooner getting curb stomped by 2 members of a mysterious group called Team Plasma, who are trying to get their hands on some of that Dream Mist and claim to be fighting for the freedom of Pokemon. But I don't know if kicking the shit out of Pokemon really counts as freeing them, so we have a quick battle against their Patrat and Purloin before Getsus seems to kinda just appear everywhere all at once. And the Team Plasma guys are pretty freaked out, so they bail. But then it turns out that the whole Getsus thing was actually just a Mashana messing with them to protect the little Mooner. So that's cute. Fennel rocks up, the Mushana bails, but leaves behind some dream mist, which makes Fennel very happy. We head back to Fennel's place again, where she gives us the sea gear, which we don't really care about, before we head out west, where we have our first unskippable double battle. As in, you can't get past these two little girls unless you have two Pokemon. So Froyo and Cut team up to take down the cats, and we keep heading out west until we're stopped by Cherin, who's keen for a battle. So we take down his level 14 Oshawott and level 12 Purloin, and then after the battle, a couple more members of Team Plasma run straight through us, and then pretty soon after that, Bianca shows up with a little girl who tells us that Team Plasma just stole her Pokemon. Now Cherin isn't having any of that, so he runs off to go sort it out, and we follow him to the Wellspring Cave, where Cherin's got the two Plasma Grunts cornered. But they call for backup, and now we're pretty outnumbered, so we team up with Cherin for the battle to take down their team of two Patrats. Probably could have handled this one on my own, but thanks for being here, Cherin. We get another lecture about how we're mistreating our Pokemon and how they're only stealing them to save them, and I kinda get it, but they're also being dicks about it, so we take back the stolen Pokemon. We run into Bianca and the little girl, who thanks us for helping her out before Bianca walks her home. We keep heading south, battle a couple of trainers, and Froyo evolves into a Pignite. We make our way into Nakreen City, where Cherin tells us all about the gym, and I mean, thanks, but we're going there anyway, dude. So we head up to the gym, where we run into N, who's getting very philosophical, but also keen for a battle. Now, N is kinda unique in that he has a totally different team every time you battle him, which kind of implies that he releases his Pokemon after every battle. Either that or he's just doing a Nuzlocke, I don't know, but this time he's got a level 13 Pidove, a level 13 Timpole, and a level 13 Timber. Then after the battle, N's a little all over the shop, talking about wanting the power to force people to agree with his way of seeing things by catching the legendary Zekrom. But he also wants to be friends, and I really don't know how to feel about this dude right now. But we make our way into the Nakreen Museum, where we get a quick guided tour of all the old fossils of Pokemon from previous generations. Possibly a subtle way of telling all the Gen 1ers that they need to move on. But I'll never move on, Gen 1 for life, baby. But after the tour, we go to the back of the museum, where we go through the doors of the gym at 21 minutes and 31 seconds. Let's see what they do with
Pokemon Black version 2 and Pokemon White version 2. You can discover the new in 2.
We grab our Tepig and name it Rushfelt, and cause these games are a straight up sequel, we got a new first gym. So we take on the normal type gym leader Cherin with his level 11 Patrat and level 13 Lillipup to earn our basic badge and the TM for Workup, which is the same TM from the first games, but it's still a pretty good move. We head out of the gym and Bianca stops by to give us the TM4 return, which is also a pretty sweet move. Cherin comes out the front to have a quick reunion with Bianca, which is very cute. But then Professor Juniper calls to join in on the catch-up too, and it's all very lovely. But then Hugh rocks up and heads into the gym to battle Cherin. So Bianca gives us the sea gear, which we will not be using, and we head up north to Philocracy Town. And there's not much going on here, so we keep on moving, battle a couple of trainers, and that's pretty much it. We arrive in Burbank City, we see the gym leader Roxy yelling at her dad, and then head into the gym at 7 minutes and 12 seconds. And honestly, that one was pretty disappointing. I really like these games, but if we're talking about just the run between the first and the second gyms, there is very little going on here. And it sucks, because after this gym, we're pretty much just back in Unova as it was in the first games, and they do a lot with that part of the game, but I just feel like they could have had a lot more in this early section, because it was brand new, but it kind of ends up feeling just a little empty. Black and White though, they were great. Those games do a really good job of developing actual characters and sprinkling a little bit of Team Plasma stuff in there too. We see Cherin being the one who takes control over a bad situation and really leading the charge to get the stolen Pokemon back. And then Bianca being the caring protector, looking after the little girl, making sure she gets home safe. It's all great stuff. We get a bit of foreshadowing of the hypocrisy of Team Plasma with all their bragging about Pokemon liberation, but then also just acting like a bunch of assholes the whole time. Very much saying one thing while doing the other. Just planting the seeds for all the Gets stuff later on in the game. And N's got his whole thing going on too. But we still get a little bit of a chance to explore here with the rest of the dream yard and the daycare with all the little preschools that we didn't bother to go to. But the focus here is definitely on character and story. Let's see what we get in
Pokemon X and Pokemon Y, playable on Nintendo 3DS and 2DS.
Now, for reasons that will soon become clear, it doesn't really matter which starter we choose, because this game is going to give us everything we need to win, like every battle. So all I really care about is taking down the first gym. Now, this is actually a little counterintuitive here, because the first gym's a bug-type gym, which you'd probably assume is best for Fennekin to deal with, but Viola's lead Pokemon, Surskit, is a bug and water type with Bubble, which Fennekin does not like. So your next guess might be Chespin to deal with the water typing, right? But her villain has Infestation, which Chespin does not like. So we're actually better off going with Froakie here, who gives and takes neutral damage in the gym. We grab our frog and name it Artemis, and then take on the bug-type gym leader Viola with her level 10 Surskit and level 12 Vivillin to earn our bug badge and the TM for Infestation. Now, if you know, you know, and if you don't know, get comfy, this is going to take a while. We head out the front door of the gym and make our way out west to meet Viola's sister Alexa, who gives us the ridiculously overpowered EXP share that gives experience to every Pokemon in your party, which has become a standard now, but at the time, it was ridiculous. We rollerblade our way up north, battle a couple of trainers, and make our way to Lumio City, where we head into Professor Sycamore's lab to have a quick battle against his team of the Kanto starters. Now, we don't actually need to win this battle, so we get absolutely destroyed by his Bulbasaur. But after the battle, he just gives us one of the Kanto starters, which is ridiculous. But I'm gonna go with Charmander to cover that grass-type weakness we've got going on. So we grab the lizard and name it Alexander. And then, he just gives us the Mega Stone, which we can then use to Mega Evolve into Charizard X. Do you see why it didn't matter which starter we chose? Anyways, all the friends turn up and Professor Sycamore asks us to go investigate the mysteries of Mega Evolution. So we head downstairs where we meet Lysander, who's given off some weird vibes, and I don't really know how to feel about this dude yet, but all of the friends come downstairs and Serena wants to hang out at the cafe. So we head over to Cafe Soleil and our old mate Lysander's in there creeping on some lady talking about how he likes his girls young. And now I'm pretty sure I know exactly how I feel about this dude. Serena, please stay away from that man. We make our way out west where we meet a Lucario, a second Lucario, and their trainer Karina, who is one of the Kalos gym leaders. The first Lucario is apparently into our aura, which is very flattering. I do try to keep my aura clean, but they head off and we get a little nod from Lucario, and there is a lot of sexual tension here. But we keep moving west, have a couple of trainer battles, and Artemis evolves into a Frogadier before we meet up with Tiano and Trevor, and Tiano's keen for a battle. Now, he didn't get any of the 6 starters that were floating around, so we take down his level 12 Corphish before we have the most difficult battle in any of the games so far. Because these games introduced Horde battles. And I know I said these games were easy, but a Horde battle against 5 Scrafty with Sand Attack is terrifying. But eventually we take them all down and arrive in Campfire Town, where we meet Shauna at the Chabonneau Castle to ask about Mega Evolution. And they got no idea what we're talking about, but we're interrupted with news that there's a Snorlax blocking the road. So we go to check it out and learn that the only thing that will wake up the Snorlax is a Poké Flute that is currently at the Parfum Palace. So we head up to the palace where we get a fun little bit of dialogue about the rich owners still charging an entrance fee to get in, but we head inside where we meet a man who's lost his Furfrou. So Shauna decides that we should find the Furfrou and extort the guy for information. Or that it's the right thing to do or something, I don't know, I wasn't really listening, because now we're playing mini-games and chasing the dog around, but we catch the dog, and the owner thanks us with a fireworks display, which is a little over the top, but to be fair, it's a pretty good show. Also, it turns out the Furfrou guy also just happens to have the Poké Flute, so that's handy. We head back to the bridge to wake up Snorlax, have a quick battle, and keep heading out west. Tiano and Trevor tell us all about the daycare, which we don't care about, so we ignore them and keep moving on. We have a double battle with a couple of Smeargle, and Alex evolves into a Charmeleon. We meet up with Serena and team up for a battle against Tiano and Trevor, who are both terrible trainers, so we win very easily. We head through the connecting cave, jump down a few ledges, hop over some rocks, and arrive in Amaret Town where we meet Serena at the Fossil Lab to ask them about Mega Evolution, and they reckon we should go have a chat to their assistant in the Glittering Cave. So we make our way out to the Spikes Passage where we ride on a ride-on. Actually, it's a Rhyhorn, but ride on a ride-on sounded better. We smash some rocks without needing a HM to do it, and then head into the Glittering Cave where we come across a strange man in all red. Or I guess it's kind of like a dark orange. Or maybe even scarlet. Either way, he's part of Team Flare and he doesn't want us in here, so we have a quick battle before continuing on through the cave. We come across a couple more members of Team Flare, so we team up with Serena to take him down. We find the assistant we were looking for, and he doesn't seem to know or even care that Team Flare were around. He's just super stoked that he found some fossils. He gives us one each, and we head back out of the cave, have a quick ride on Rhyhorn, and make our way out to the aquarium, which leads down to the beach where we head up north to Silage City. We rollerblade our way up the bike path and meet a man named Grant, who gives us the HM for strength, and then turns out to be the gym leader, so we follow him up to the gym and walk through the doors with a time of 57 minutes and 5 seconds. And I feel like I forgot how much fun these games are. There isn't really any super deep story stuff going on here, and every character has like one personality trait. But like, this is a Pokemon game. It doesn't need to be that deep. There's a heap of stuff to just dick around with in these games, and it looks great. And yeah, the games are stupidly easy because they just throw starters and megas at you, and switch training is gone. But like, is that such a bad thing? Maybe I don't want to grind in the grass for 10 hours just so I can have a team of 6 Pokemon that are actually a decent level. I don't know, I feel like this game is remembered for being kind of bland, but I'm really enjoying it. It does play hard on the nostalgia, like giving you a Kanto starter, doing the Snorlax on the road thing again, and mixing in all the older gen Pokemon in the wild encounters. Plus they got all the old legendary statues in the palace, and they've even got the I Like Shorts guy back, which is actually pretty funny. I feel like Game Freak kind of panicked when Black and White didn't sell that well, and they were like, alright, you don't like new stuff? Here's all the old stuff you liked when you were a kid, but now it's all fancy and 3D. And it's totally working for me. I'm really liking this game. Let's check out another fancy 3D game with
Pokemon Omega Ruby and Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. Only on Nintendo 3DS. Games rated E for everyone.
Oh man, you thought the last few starters were controversial picks? Well, strap yourselves in, because this is going to piss a lot of people off. But I'm not going with Mudkip here. The physical special split was not kind to the little guy, with most of Swampert's best attacks being special attacks, and its best stat being its physical attack, which is even higher for Mega Swampert. Now I know we could run Waterfall or Earthquake or something like that, but that's really more of a late game moveset, and I want something that's going to hit hard for the entire run, which is why Torchic and later Blaziken is going to be our starter for this run. Just hear me out for a second. First of all, the chicken is a mixed attacker, so we don't have the same problem with the whole physical special split thing, but also, as we've seen in previous games, the fire fighting type is very good. Plus, we get the ability Speed Boost on Mega Blaziken, which is also very good. And just like Chimchar that one time, if we battle a couple of trainers in the gym, we can evolve our Torchic into a Combusken, who has no problem dealing with Roxanne's rock types. So we grab our Torchic and name it Dilly J, before taking on Roxanne, who's lost a Geodude, so now we're down to just one level 12 Geodude, and her Nosepass, who has dropped from level 15 to level 14. We head out of the gym and have more or less the same sequence of events from Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, even down to getting spotted by the real villain of these games, Youngster Joey. But we save Pico, meet the president, get on the boat, and walk through the doors of the gym with a time of 7 minutes and 30 seconds, which is actually faster than Emerald, because we didn't have to stop for a quick chat every 12 seconds. And if you think Hoenn had too much water, let's check out
Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. Available worldwide in 9 languages.
Now this is a bit of a weird one to pick, because the trials aren't really like your normal gym battles. We've usually got a dual type thing going on rather than just one type per gym, and also the SOS Pokemon are a thing, which complicates things even more. So we're gonna base this more on who's gonna be the safest pick overall than just looking at the gyms, and straight away we can see some patterns emerging here, with Decidueye having 5 weaknesses, Incineroar having 4 weaknesses, and Primarina Primarina having only 3 weaknesses. Then Decidueye can hit 5 types for super effective damage, and both Incineroar and Primarina can hit 6 types. But I reckon Primarina hitting types like Fighting, Dark, and Dragon super effectively is more useful than Incineroar hitting things like Bug or Grass types. Now, all 3 are pretty slow, but Primarina comes out on top again if we look at raw power, with a base of 126 in special attack. So as much as I love Litten and Rowlet, we're gonna go with Poplio. We grab our Poplio and name it... This is gonna be a hard one. Iray. Sure, let's go with that. We head into the first trial and get a quick rundown from Illimer, who is apparently a guy. Which means apparently I'm gay, because he is looking good. We take on the Totem Gumshoes and its SOS partner Yungoos to earn the Normalium Z, and after the battle, Ari evolves into a Brionne. We head out of the cave and Professor Kukui shows us how to do a ridiculous dance to use the normal type Z move, Breakneck Blitz, before we make our way north to the Melee Meadow, where we meet up with Lily, who has once again lost Nebby. So we head through the flowers, battle a few Oricorio, and save Nebby. Again. We head out of the cave and run into Hau, who's keen for a battle, so we take down his level 13 Pikachu and level 14 Litten. Kukui shows up again and tells us that since we've beaten the island trials, we must now battle the island Kahuna. So we head back down to Iki Town to take on the Kahuna with his level 14 Mankey, level 14 Makuhita, and level 15 Crabrawler, who uses the fighting type Z move, All Out Pummeling. Then after the battle, the Kahuna gives us the Fightinium Z, and of course, shows us a little dance. And because this is the first game that completely got rid of HMs, we get a new little gimmick. Ride Pokemon, the first and best of which is Tauros. Kukui tells us to meet him down at the old marina, so we Tauros charge our way down south and meet up with Kukui, Lily, and Hau to jump on a boat and sail over to Akala Island. We arrive in Hiahia City and meet Olivia and Mallow, the latter of which is one of the trial captains of the Akala Island. Kukui takes a good hard look deep into their arseholes as they walk away and then tells us that Olivia is actually the island Kahuna and that there are 3 trials on this island. So we Tauros charge our way up to meet a couple of tourists named Dexio and Cena. We have a quick battle with Dexio before he gives us the Zygarde Cube, which feels about 1 generation too late for me to care. But we Tauros charge our way through the... get the fuck out of my way. We Tauros charge our way through to Panola Town, where we meet up with Hau, who's keen for a battle, again. So we take down his level 16 Pikachu and level 17 Torracat. After the battle, we Tauros charge our way up to the Panola Ranch, where Mallow gives us the ride pager for Stoutland. But, like, we already got Tauros. So we Tauros charge our way through the ranch before we run into Hau, who's just lost his battle with an edgy blonde dude named Gladion, who is a member of Team Skull and has a very sore wrist. We take down his level 17 Zubat and level 18 Type Null, and then after the battle, a couple more Team Scullions rock up, but Gladion's like, nah, don't worry about it, and they leave. We arrive in Brooklet Hill, where we meet the trial captain Lana, who asks us for our help, so we follow her down to the water where she shows us the mysterious splashing. So she gives us the ride pager for Lapras to go investigate. It turns out to be a Wishy-Washy, which we quickly battle before moving downstream and repeating the process until eventually it's revealed that this is the trial. So we Tauros charge our way through the trial post things after 46 minutes and 44 seconds. Let's see what's going on in
Pokemon Ultra Sun and Pokemon Ultra Moon. Rated everyone.
We grab ourselves a Poplio and name it Eduardo before taking on the trial. And now we do have a different trial Pokemon here, but not because this is Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but specifically because this is Ultra Moon. The totem Pokemon in regular old Pokemon Moon is also Eradicate, but we take down the Alolan Eradicate and its SOS Rattata to earn our Normalium Z, and then after the battle, Eduardo evolves into a Brionne. We head out of the cave and not a whole lot's changed here. Kukui still does his little dance and shows us how the Z moves work, and Illimer's still sexy. But we make our way up north to the Meadow where we meet up with Lily, but this time, Nebby's in a cave. So we save Nebby again, but this time we come across those two members of the Ultra Recon Squad, whose names we learn are Fico and Solera, and they're keen for a battle, so we take down their Furfrou before heading back to see Lily and then running into Hao, who still has his Pikachu and Litten, but also a level 11 Noibat. We head back to Iki Town to battle the Kahuna, who's also changed up his team a little bit with a level 15 Machop replacing his Mankey. His Makuhita is still here, but it's gone from level 14 to level 15, and his Crabrawler has gone from level 15 to level 16. We get the Fightinium Z and the Ride Pager for Tauros, but we also get the biggest change in this part of the game with a Mantine surfing. No more lazy boat rides in these games. This time, we got a little mini game to get between the islands. So we do some sweet backflips and spins and crash into a tentacle, and I wish I could say this part of the game was fun, but honestly it's a little tedious. But eventually we arrive on Akala Island, where we Tauros charge our way through a lot of the exact same stuff as last time, but eventually we arrive at the Panola Ranch, where we battle Hao, who has his same old Torracat and Pikachu, as well as his new Noibat, but also a level 16 Eevee. We Tauros charge our way through the ranch until we find Gladion, who now has a level 17 Zorua, as well as his Zubat and Type Null. But this time, as soon as we get to Brooklet Hill, there's no fake out sneaky secret trial or any of that. We just go straight through the trial post thingies at 49 minutes and 21 seconds. Now these games are trying a lot of new things, and I can respect that. But I honestly don't think anything here is an actual improvement over the older games. I guess you could say that getting rid of the HMs is a good thing, but the ride Pokemon are honestly pretty clunky. The biggest issue I had with this little run between the trials is that the first half doesn't really introduce anything new outside of the Melee Meadow. Like, we already saved Nebby with the whole bridge thing, so saving Nebby again is just a little redundant to the story. And we already battled Hao, so 2 more battles with pretty much the same team? It's a lot. And we already did the big ceremony battle thing in Iki Town when we battled Hao the first time, so battling the Kahuna in the same place this early in another big ceremony, it just feels like we're going around in circles. And we kind of literally are going around in circles, which is more of a problem that's caused by setting this whole game on individual islands, because there's only so much you can do with a few islands before you're literally just doing laps of the island. So, like I said, I respect that they tried to mix it up a bit, but so much of these games is just a slog to get through. And that's not even mentioning the fact that you can't walk 2 steps in these games without the screen cutting to black for the 10 millionth time, and also forcing me to get off Tauros. Why even have the ride Pokemon if you won't let me ride them? Alright, that's enough. Let's ditch the second screen and move on to
Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, only on Nintendo Switch.
Now we can skip the whole starter ramblings here, because we're going to go with Eevee, and we name it Brony. Now, an extra little feature in these games is that you cannot enter the gyms without completing a certain task first. The first of which is catching a Grass-type Pokemon, so on the way to Pewter City, we catch ourselves a Bulbasaur, and name it Steven. We take on Brock with his level 11 Geodude and level 12 Onix, but this time we get the TM4 Headbutt, which is not a Rock-type move, but is actually a pretty decent TM. Definitely better than Bide. We head out the front door of the gym and meet Blue, who gives us a quick smell you later before we make our way towards Mount Moon. We battle a few trainers on the way, but everyone's got like a level 6 Rattata or something, so it's a very easy run. Once we get into Mount Moon, we meet 2 members of Team Rocket, whose names are not revealed yet, but I reckon you can probably guess who they are. We avoid a bunch of wild bats and run into our first proper Rocket Grunt, who does not have rats and bats, but a level 9 Drowsy. Really mixing it up for this early in the game, but we keep moving on until we come across our old friend, Super Nerd Miguel. We have a quick battle and he gives us one of the 2 fossils, and this time, the Dome fossil is on the right, so I'm forsaking Lord Helix. We go to leave the cave, and those 2 mysterious members of Team Rocket turn up, and it turns out that they are actually called Jesse and James. That's right. So we take down their Coffin and Ekans before we run straight through Cerulean and into the gym with a time of Hold Up! We can't actually take on the gym until we have a Pokemon that is at least level 15. Luckily, there's a sneaky rare candy hidden up here by the water, so we grab the candy, give it to Brony, and head back to the gym to finish with a time of 16 minutes and 54 seconds. let's check out
Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. Only for Nintendo Switch.
Now, the first 3 gyms in these games are grass, water, and fire type gyms, so it doesn't really make a huge difference which starter we pick, because we're going to be weak to one of those gyms either way. Interestingly, the rest of the game is pretty much neutral regardless of which starter you pick, so you can't really get it too wrong. But we're going to go for an easy start to the game with the Fire Bunny. We grab our score bunny and name it Alien Raven before we make our way towards the first gym, and Alien Raven evolves into a Reboot. In the gym, we heard some Wooloo before taking on the Grass-type gym leader Milo with his level 19 Glossifleur before we have a Dynamax off with his level 20 Eldegoss. After the battle, Milo gives us the Grass Badge, yes, it's literally called the Grass Badge, and the TM4 Magical Leaf. We head out the front door of the gym and make our way out east, where we come across very little, to be honest. They do have a daycare on this route, but that's pretty much it. Eventually, we come across 2 members of Team Yell trying to steal some dude's bike. And I swear to God, this guy never says his name, so I'm just going to call him Mask Man. But we have a quick battle with Fat Mike, and then Mask Man gives us the bike anyway, so now we can ride our bicycle where we like. We run into Hop, who's keen for a battle, so we take on his level 18 Wooloo, level 19 Corvisquire, and level 20 Thwacky. After the battle, I accidentally run into a gender-swapped Elmer Fudd, but pretty soon after that, we make it to Hulbury, where we see Olena, Rose, and Bede, who is apparently still a dude, but not quite as sexy as Illimer. Rose reckons we should go take on the gym, but he seems kinda bummed out that Olena won't just let him hang out with his friends. Also, he's rocking a pretty decent beer gut here. Rose is getting uncomfortably relatable in this part of the game, but we head down to the gym where we are told that the gym leader, Nessa, is off at the lighthouse. So we make our way to the lighthouse where we meet Nessa, who's just kinda hanging out by the water and doesn't really have anything interesting to say before heading back to the gym. But we walk through the doors of the gym with a time of 10 minutes and 14 seconds. And this was a bit of a nothing run, to be honest. We had a couple of basic bitch battles with the team Whatever Grunts and a generic rival battle, but that's about it. We got a glimpse of character development with Rose being kinda bummed out, but I have no idea why they even bothered with the coding required to have Nessa at the lighthouse. It is a complete waste of time and achieves nothing. And it's not like it's even effective as filler, because it only takes like 10 seconds to walk there. It's weird. But these games are pretty heavily front and back loaded, by which I mean most of the stuff happens right at the start of the game or right at the end of the game, and the middle part is pretty much just a straight line between gyms and a big old wild area, which, to be fair, was a ton of fun to just dick around with when the game first came up, but now these games are already feeling pretty dated. Speaking of games that already feel pretty dated,
Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl.
we grab our Chimchar and name it Robert, and if you really want to see what happens in this run, go back to about 1806 in the video, because it's exactly the same. But we walk through the doors of the gym with a time of 25 minutes and 52 seconds, which is actually a little bit slower than Diamond and Pearl, but that's probably just because I had to keep pausing to yawn.
Oh no, it fell asleep!
Opinion.
Bad and you should feel bad.
And while I'm already pissing people off, I know we could consider the Frenzied Nobles as the gyms in Legends, but there's only 5 of them, so it doesn't really line up very nicely with this whole thing that I'm doing, and honestly, those games kind of transcend mainline Pokemon anyway, so I'm leaving them out. But let's check out the newest game in the franchise with
Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. Only on Nintendo Switch.
So I know technically you can do the gyms in any order, but there's totally an actual order if you just order them by lowest level to highest level, as they would be in any other game, which means that this is going to be a really easy pick for our starter, because Mr. Fuecoco over here destroys the first 2 gyms, does well in 6 out of 8 gyms, and only really struggles in the water-type gym. So with the matchups like that, we're going to go with the Croc. We grab ourselves a Fuecoco and name it Spider Rider before we make our way to the first gym, we're calling Cortando the first gym, where we head outside to play a quick game of Olive Roll. And honestly, I'm a lot worse at this than I remember, but eventually we get the thing in the thing and head back to the gym to do the thing. We take on the Bug-type leader Katie with her level 14 Nimble, level 14 Tarantula, and level 15 Teddiursa with the Bug Terror type, so when it puts on its little hat, it becomes a Bug type, which is pretty cool, but also Kinda feels like a missed opportunity here, because a few of the other gyms have a Pokemon that kinda looks like the same type as the gym, but it isn't, until it terastallizes. Like, for example, in the Grass-type Artisan gym, where the ace is the Rock-type Sudowoodo, and Sudowoodo kinda looks like a Grass-type, but it isn't. Until it terastallizes and puts on its little grassy hat, so now it fits in with the rest of the gym, which I thought was a really cool idea. So I feel like they could have done the same thing for all the gyms, like have the ace of the Bug-type gym be a Trapinch or a Kabuto or even a Gligar, I don't know, just something a bit more bug-like than a teddy bear. But speaking of the Artisan gym, we're calling that the second gym, and I know I said this isn't a speed run, but this is a speed run. All we gotta do is bail straight to Artisan, so I'm going for it. This is gonna be the fastest run of them all. We're gonna be on world record pace. There's gonna be a summon insult video about this shit. Let's do this. 3, 2, 1, go! Alright, this is a pretty long load time, so I'll start the time once we're actually outside. And we are off, and immediately we're saving time by flying as far east as we can. We get to the gate, and we're losing a lot of time loading here, but we ride on Koraidon and bail straight through Area 3, ignoring every trainer and wild Pokemon we see, until we get a call from Arvin, who's bitching about the Titan Pokemon again, but we don't have time for that shit, so we hang up on him and start going off-road, because we don't have time for roads. We don't have time for shit, because now we're in Artisan, and we're moving. We're almost there. We got a quick panning shot of the gym, and we are in the doors with a time of 3 minutes and 17 seconds, which is very comfortably the fastest time and a PB. But let's go back through everything and see how we went, starting with Scarlet and Violet at 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Next up is Ruby and Sapphire with the previously unbeatable 6 minutes and 29 seconds. Then we have Black 2 and White 2 with a very underwhelming 7 minutes and 12 seconds. Then Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire at 7 minutes and 30 seconds, followed by Emerald at 9 minutes and 18 seconds. Then another pretty underwhelming run with Sword and Shield at 10 minutes and 14 seconds, followed by a surprisingly quick run with Heart Gold and Soul Silver at 12 minutes and 24 seconds. Then we are firmly in Gens 1 and 2 here with Crystal at 12 minutes and 33 seconds, Red and Blue with 12 minutes and 47 seconds, Fire Red and Leaf Green with 14 minutes and 20 seconds, Yellow with 15 minutes and 42 seconds, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee with 16 minutes and 54 seconds, and Gold and Silver with 17 minutes and 19 seconds. And now we get more into the story-heavy games with Black and White at 21 minutes and 31 seconds. And then we got 3 Sinnoh games in a row with Platinum at 23 minutes flat, Diamond and Pearl at 24 minutes and 6 seconds, and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl at 25 minutes and 52 seconds. Then we got a pretty big jump to Sun and Moon with 46 minutes and 44 seconds, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon with 49 minutes and 21 seconds, and finally, the longest time by a landslide victory here, X and Y with 57 minutes and 50 seconds between the first and second gyms. Now what I wanted to see was what all the different games did with the world once we got past that first gym. So if we slap all of this on our old faithful graph over here, and then bring in the times up to the first gym, then we can see that it's almost like some of the games with the longest tutorials ended up being the ones with the least going on once we actually started playing the games. And the ones that kind of just jumped straight into it actually ended up being the ones that gave us the most to do. The two extremes of this being Scarlet and Violet and X and Y, but a dishonorable mention for Sword and Shield here too. We do get a few exceptions with the Hoenn games being crazy fast, but we already talked about how that's more a result of efficiency than a lack of content. But I was actually pretty impressed with the Sinnoh games here that did a lot of good things, as well as Black and White, but not Black and White 2, which were probably the most disappointing because they could have been so much more. But this has been a ton of fun to go back through each game and focus on what happens between the gyms. So I'm probably going to keep doing this for all the gyms. Or not, I don't know, we'll see. But thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you next time.